Texas sheet cake, keto recipe. You're going to love this low-carb Texas sheet cake recipe. This delicious keto chocolate cake stays true to the original, with a boiled cocoa frosting. You won't believe it's sugar-free. The creation of this Texas sheet cake recipe was a foregone conclusion. Preordained. Written in the stars. Fate, destiny, kismet. It was an absolute inevitability. From the moment I published my low-carb peanut butter sheet cake, I had readers requesting one of the traditional chocolate variety. Texas sheet cake seems to speak to something deep within the collective American psyche. And I got requests from all over the country, so it's not as geographically limited as the name might suggest. It's a well-loved American classic and I simply can't argue with that. So you know I had to give it a go. How to make keto Texas sheet cake. However, it's hard to stay true to a classic when working with a completely different set of ingredients. Almond flour is not the same as wheat flour and my low-carb sweeteners are not the same as sugar. But this non-Texan, non-American resident alien did her best. I researched Texas sheet cake recipes for several days before even attempting to decarbify this iconic dessert. See, with the peanut butter version, I was straying far enough from the original concept to just do what I wanted with it, tradition be damned. Basically, it was a delicious grain-free peanut butter cake with a delicious sugar-free peanut butter frosting. But if I was going to attempt a real Texas sheet cake recipe, I wanted it to be as close to the original as possible and yet still without gluten or sugar. Tricky, that. I could easily have just relied on any one of my low-carb chocolate cake recipes and then simply spread it with chocolate frosting, sprinkled it with pecans, and called it done. Instead, I tried to take some main tenets from the traditional recipes and apply them to my low-carb ingredients. Such as bringing the butter, water, and cocoa powder to a boil before adding it to the flour mixture for the cake, an unusual step that I had never done in any other cake recipes. And also to stay true to the original, I poured the warm frosting over the warm cake, instead of letting it cool as I would any other cake. This makes something of a marriage between the frosting and the cake so that the cake is extra moist. Again, not something I would do with any other cake recipe. But it worked beautifully. The final result? Oh, kids, do you even need to ask? From Anchorage to Miami and everywhere in between, low-carb dieters can now enjoy real Texas sheet cake. Maybe even some of my fellow Canucks will give it a go. Tips for making low-carb Texas sheet cake. Grease the pan well, and then do yourself a favor and grease it again. This is what I call double greasing and it helps my low-carb cake recipes release more easily. I do a solid fat first, like butter, really working it into the creases. Then I spray with coconut oil or avocado oil spray. Use a rimmed baking pan, sheet pans or jelly roll pans come in various sizes. The one I used for this Texas sheet cake recipe is 10x15, which is a slightly unusual size. It's okay to use an 11x17 pan too, but your cake will be thinner and will bake a little faster. Protein powder, yes, it's necessary. No, you can't skip it. It's part of what helps the cake rise and hold its shape. However, you can use egg white protein or hemp protein. Please do not try collagen, it will make the cake very gummy. Pour the glaze over the cake while it's hot. This is part of the charm of Texas sheet cake, the way the cake and glaze come together and are almost melted into each other. You can let the cake cool a bit but the glaze needs to be quite warm as you pour it over. Let it cool to room temp, you don't need to refrigerate the cake, just let it cool and the frosting will set. Have some friends over and enjoy.